You're listening to Age of Agility, the podcast where business leaders share how they're making the most of the tools and information they already have. I'm Nick LaFleur, producer of the show. You're probably familiar with the proverb, give someone a fish and you feed them for a day. Teach someone to fish and you feed them for a lifetime. This week we're talking to Brian Hinshaw, a business process manager at AT&T. Brian helps business users build and improve on technology solutions using no-code platforms. To quote Brian, he's teaching the business to fish by giving these non-technical teams the tools to build and adapt their own applications faster than traditional methods of application development would allow. This conversation got me thinking, what unique skills do you bring to the table in your role, and how do you scale them to help more people get things done? Email us at applepodcasts@quickbase.com or DM us at Quickbase on social media with your thoughts, and maybe we'll feature them on a future episode of the podcast. Until then, enjoy our conversation with Brian Hinshaw from AT&T.
Welcome to the Age of Agility. This is a show where we talk to people who are facing unique challenges with an agility mindset. We'll learn from industry leaders, business and IT professionals, and even check in on our colleagues from time to time. Stay tuned as we explore the age of agility. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Age of Agility. My name is Shannon Curran, and I am your host. We are very excited today to welcome someone that we are super interested in hearing about his role and how he continues to build out citizen automation in his organization at AT&T. We are here with Brian Hinshaw. He is a business process manager at AT&T.
Hey, thanks, Shannon, for having me today. I appreciate the opportunity.
Awesome. Well, could you tell our audience a little bit about who you are and what your role is?
Sure. At AT&T, I work as a platform and process manager, helping teams to figure out how to solve different problems. And as we talk through today, I just want to say that, what we're discussing are my opinions and not necessarily those of the company, to get that legal out of the way.
Great. So can you tell us a little bit about how you got into the field and sort of what's the primary focus of your role?
I really got into this many years ago when I was in sales. My first role was an engineer finding solutions for customers, and then I started managing engineers, and we had all kinds of paperwork. And at that point, I started building applications to help manage our teams. And that's really how I got into some of the business processes that we're doing today, is just figuring out what is the problem that we have and what do we need to read out to folks on, and figuring out a way with whatever tools we had to get that done. That's really the nature of what we do day in and day out. Is a business team will come and, hey, I've got this challenge. Here's the data or things that I'm working with. How can we do this better? What can we do to streamline our process? Or I have this problem today and I can't solve it. So can you help me fix it?
So are there any trends for across the problems that you're typically helping the business solve?
A lot of them deal with problems that the business has, that they're trying to come up with solutions to things that other parts of the business they're not ready to support yet. So a business team might have a new product that they're launching, and they need to track 100 different things about that new product, but the traditional IT mechanism won't be spun up to handle that for a long time. So they need something today, and they can't wait 6-9 months for a solution to be built in the normal manner. They need something that they can spin up right away. And once it's up and running, they also often need to change it because they find that whatever they thought was going to work the first time didn't work out the way they quite planned.
So typically are folks coming to you with a problem that they've already tried to solve? I think that's kind of what you're getting at, right? Like what systems are they already using? I'm guessing like Excel, SharePoint, like any of those, like are they typically trying to solve their problems with those systems and then coming to you when they're kind of hitting a wall?
Yeah, it could be a brand new problem. They haven't tried to solve it, so they're just really unsure of how to even start solving it. Or like you said, they've tried to build it in Excel, SharePoint, um, Power Automate, you name the various platforms, and a lot of times they get down a path and either their technical ability runs out or there's some sort of um, architecture or security problem that they run into that they can't solve, and they need someone else to kind of help guide them through that process, and that's where we engage to help find the path through the weeds.
So, how do you define or choose, I guess, a system or a tool to help the business solve their problems typically? Are you looking at something where you can build something for them that'll be self-serve that they can then build on and use? Or are you typically looking for sort of a template? Like, can you kind of walk us through what that looks like typically?
Sure, it could be something simple. Maybe they just need some basic tracking. So there we'd look for something that could be maybe a template we've done for another team. Let's pull it off the shelf, modify for them, and get them off and going. But whatever we do in the end, we're always trying to hear what they want it to do and what they need to get out of it so that we can decide which direction we take them. And in the end, we have to make sure either they can be self-sufficient and carry it forward because we can't serve everyone, or it's going to be one of those complex type scenarios and they're going to need some IT support to care and feed for it for the long term. So are they ready to, support that mechanism? We try to explain the pros and cons of different solutions and find something that fits their needs the best.
What are some sort of typical qualifications that you're looking for in a platform as you are looking to bring more tools sort of into your tool belt to help the business solve their problems?
Those platforms and tools, they really have to be easy to use. They've got to be very secure because we have a lot of data that folks would like to get to. They need to be easy to build, and they also have to be easy to maintain, and they need to be able to integrate with a variety of other things because we found that there's no one tool that solves all our ails. We often have to put multiple things together. Along with all those features, is there training available? Can they self-train? Or, what's the level of effort that a user or even a developer has to put in to be able to use that platform?
Yeah, interesting. I don't think I've heard the training component when we've talked to folks, right? We hear a lot of IT folks talk about security, governance, integrations, but it is interesting to think about training really is that takes a lot of your time, right? To be able to train folks on a platform. So something that is more self-serve. That's really interesting. I hadn't heard that one yet.
Yeah, to me, training is a big part of it because even if I build a a quick solution that the person's going to take over, I still have to train them on what I did. And then if they want to go forward, they're going to come right back to me and say, can you show me how to do this or that or the other? And that's where having a platform that also has a good training component, I can say, sure, here's their wiki or videos or whatever it is. I like to use the analogy to teach teams to fish on their own. I want them to be able to have a solution, have it meet their needs, but then day two, day three onward, they're often and able to do on their own. They don't always have to come back for help with moving to that next component they want to do.
Yeah, absolutely. It seems like that gets to your kind of point earlier around scalability, right? So it's not just scalability of the tools and the technology, but also of your team and your capacity, right? Like there's only so much that your team can build. So, or fish, I guess, in this context.
So much bait we can put on the hook for everybody. They've got to do it on their own.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know how to fish, so I wasn't going to be able to help you with that metaphor. I know. So has this changed in the lab? Have you seen sort of since the COVID disruption, like distributed teams going fully remote? Have you seen a big change in your job as someone that really enables the business with technology support and digital solutions? Like, how have you seen that landscape change over the last year and a half?
Drastically change. We went from a model where a lot of folks were in an office, centralized together, and you collaborated by walking over to the desk or the team huddle room, whatever. And now we're not in the office, we're everywhere else. And so we need tools that allow us to still kind of perform the same way when we were in the office, share that information quickly. And that's where I think these platforms that allow citizens to do what they need to do, or they're in our environment, they're rapidly growing. A team will spin up a solution for a need that they have. They'll share it with another team. That team will pick it up and start using it. It's kind of that viral growth that's happening where teams that used to could huddle together and figure out something, now they work on individual pieces remotely and put them together and come up with a even better solution than maybe we would have before. And we have a lot of folks who are remote now that have never been, and they need access to data and things that you used to could only get in the office, so to speak. And these tools allow us to tap into those systems and give them a view that can be customized to their needs. And that's a huge time saver for the business, instead of them having to go off to a dozen different places to get data that they need to do their job every day.
Definitely. I think we're hearing a lot about access and visibility to real-time data and insights. I feel like that is like the number one thing that is bubbling up when it comes to, at least in the work that we do. And I know a lot of the work that's happening at AT&T around citizen automation is how do we get technology into the hands of the people that understand the processes the best, and how can we make sure that each one of those people has access and visibility into the data that they need to do their work in real time.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it for our users. It kind of runs along three common themes that I see. I need to track something, I need to report something, and then need to take those things that I tracked and reported, and now I need to go to leadership with something that's a nice presentation, nice dashboard, so that I can give them the story in one place and it not be, not just be a PowerPoint or something like that. They actually want to take the team through the data and be able to drill through dashboards and see things in real time.
So I'd love to hear about, can you walk us through the process? So you have a business partner that comes to you that says, we have a problem. How can we sort of give us sort of your day to day, right? Someone says like, I need to be able to access this, and this. I've already tried to build it in a bunch of other ways, and I am now have a 40 tab Excel spreadsheet, which I'm sure you see often. And you got that like swirly ball of death. Yeah. Can you explain to us sort of like, how do you walk through the process of coaching and helping the business to build their own digital solutions?
So we usually start off with some discovery calls. The first piece will be, tell me what you're doing today and where you want to be with it. Show us what you've got in terms of data or process or tooling you've tried to do already. Tell us about that. Tell us where it's breaking so that we know where the gaps are. Once we get that, we usually say, okay, do you have data samples, or where's the data at that we need to go get? We'll then go through back channels and hopefully get connected to the data. Sometimes we don't. We have to beg and plead for data sometimes too. But once we get those pieces put together, we generally put together what I'll call a shell. It's a real basic proof of concept so that we can come back to the business and say, okay, we heard you wanted A, B, C. Here's where we are. We've got A and B. We're working on C. Are we close? Are we lining up with what your expectations are? And then it becomes a collaborative kind of effort. We're making changes, we're getting them to review it. It's very different from the traditional development model where you would send in requirements and 6 months later you would finally see something and then start reviewing it. We're very iterative with our teams, trying to show them concepts and making sure it's fitting their needs very quickly. We do that for one, but we have 120 some of those type scenarios um, going on in our environment. It seems like every week.
Never a lack of things to fix, I can imagine.
Yeah, never enough, never enough time in the day to get through all the requests and talk about things to fix. There are a lot of old applications that are starting to retire. They're not going to be supported anymore, and our teams are trying to figure out what do I do, and that's another place where the citizen development really enables them. They're directly on the front lines of the business and they often know intricate little pieces that would be really hard to relay to some folks. And if they can get in there and build that on their own, they're very happy about it. And once they build it, they'll often take ownership of it and they'll keep refining it and improving it. And that's really the piece that I think is rewarding for me and for them, is that they become enabled to do what they couldn't do before.
Yeah, it must be pretty rewarding as a partner too, right? Because can you describe to folks where you sit in the business, right? Like where your team lies between business and IT?
Right. So we're in customer service and operations, and we have sales and delivery on one side out serving the customer, and we sit between them and the traditional IT factory, if you will. So we're kind of the go-between between the different units to get them connected, to translate from the business to the IT world.
So, how do you work? So, you sit in this really interesting, I think, part of the business where you get to see all angles, right? So, you get to see the work that IT is doing, the work that the business is doing. Can you kind of explain how you partner exactly with IT to get to really make sure you're using the right solutions and all of that?
Right. So IT to me is out there looking at a grand scale across the company, and they're solutioning for a, a big problem, and we're solutioning for our business unit type level problems. And our partnership with IT is really where we go to IT and we explain what the business needs, helping the business translate their terminology into the IT terminology, and then relaying back from IT to the business. They speak different languages.
Mhm.
And so we're kind of like a translator sitting there explaining this crazy stuff on the IT side to the business people, and then helping the IT people understand why sales needs this. It's not a technical thing; it's more of a business function.
That's super interesting to think of yourself as a translator because that's very cool because there really are different languages that get spoken within an enterprise around priorities and even like understanding of technical ability. But I think we find that in a lot of our work, I know they're starting this word business technologist is kind of starting to come up, and that feels like your group is really a group of business technologists that are very technologically advanced that but also understand the business, right? So there's something kind of in between.
Yeah, that's true. A lot of us have come up through the business, performing different business functions, but in that business unit, we've kind of been quasi IT people
Yeah,
and doing the coding or things, but at the same time, understanding the business is just as important as understanding that technology and trying to figure out how do we get the two mated together.
definitely. So here's the question that we ask all of our guests. So how would you define agility?
Well, for me, agility is how fast we can get something done? How fast can we adapt to a change or a new product launch or some new external factor that's impacting the business? That to me is where agility really lies.
So really responding and being dynamic, that is definitely something we often hear. And I feel like that must come up so much for you, right? So if you're on the end of lots of solutioning for folks, making sure you're able to continue to improve and understand what they need and understand the changing conditions in which they need it.
Yeah, everybody has the same expectation. They would like it tomorrow. And, we try to educate them what tomorrow really could mean in terms of our solutioning.
We can give you something tomorrow. It's just not going to help you.
Right. It may not be perfect, but we'll have it tomorrow. As long as we're willing to take some iterations.
Yeah, exactly. Better every day. That's what we like to say, right?
That's right.
So we're coming to the end of our interview, and so we always ask our folks at the end, sort of more about how are you doing? Is there anything you are listening to, watching right now, reading that you're finding particularly interesting that you think our audience would also you're dying to tell people about?
I don't know that I'm dying to tell people about it, but I do find it interesting. I'm reading Matthew McConaughey's Green Light book. Kind of got that for the for vacation coming up, and I just always found him to be an interesting character. But I like how he tells stories because a lot of the time I'm trying to tell a story or something, and sometimes I find learning from others how they tell a story can help me do things better, not only in my work but my personal life. I have two teenagers, so I continually have to tell them stories to guide them.
Well, to all of you out there, please like and subscribe. We are anywhere you listen to your favorite podcasts. You can also leave us a review. We would love that. And you can also watch all these episodes on quickbase.com/podcasts or on our YouTube channel. And we look forward to seeing you or hearing from you next time. Bye.
Thanks, guys.